Let's go straight to it. I mean, you lived in Ireland around 2007. You were mayor of Portlaoise. Did I pronounce that very well? Okay, in Ireland. Are you home to vote? And even if you are not home to vote, from what you have observed, what do you think, the process is like comparing with where you are coming from in Ireland? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Abati and Leila, and to all the numerous viewers out there. I have to say that it's such a great pleasure to be on this show and to be on Dr. Abati's show. I think it's quite a very long time that we have spoken last, and it's good to be home. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to vote, but I was able to observe all that went on throughout yesterday, and in fact, run up to the election as well. And watching the event as it unfolded, I was able to sort of, kind of look back into what the election process is like in Ireland, the country where I was elected a mayor in 2007, just like Dr. Abati mentioned there. I know that Nigeria is a massive, huge country. And the challenge is huge for whatever agency or organization that is taking up the election processes in the country. 250 million people or over 200 million people is no joke. You're talking of over 170,000 polling units. That is quite a lot. But I still think that with what I saw yesterday, maybe there is a way we've been doing things, and we probably want to think of another way of approaching the challenges that is ahead of us. I know some have argued that we have improved in our electoral system. I would say so, maybe yes, but I think with what I saw yesterday, I probably wanted to see a lot more, but not underpinning the facts that we have achieved a lot more, because I saw that there was a lot of problems in some areas. Some areas were unable to vote, and I saw that some polling units did not open on time. And what I read before the time was that I think polling will start, or voting will start by 8:30 in the morning. And I saw that in some polling units, watching events live online, I saw that some did not even start voting until 11, or some even 2 o'clock. And that was actually the time that the electoral officers walked in to open the polling unit. I think this is not acceptable. For whatever reason, I know there are logistical challenges and all of that. All this should have been taken into consideration before the day. And I would think, and that's why I said that maybe we have to think of a way of doing things a little bit different from the way we've been approaching it. Because this idea of the election was all hold one day, maybe it is the time we want to look at the country and ask ourselves, do we really have the capacity to conduct an election that we hold all within 24 hours. Ireland, the small country that I live in, the electoral process there does not even give or conduct election in a day. There are some parts of the country that we describe as offshore. The offshore elections takes place a day before the general election itself. In other words, we normally have our elections on Fridays, and then the offshore elections takes place on Thursday, because these are places that are very difficult to access. So what it means is that the result would have come in on the day that we are voting nationwide. So maybe it's time that Nigeria should begin to look into something like that, because I'm aware that there are some areas that are in riverine areas, and to access these areas is a big challenge. I want to see that in future where such areas are not being disenfranchised, and the only way we can do that is you have to take them into your plan when you are putting the plans in place. And that's one. Another area that I would actually want to touch on is the safety of people. I could see that, this has happened before. I remember this happened in Nigeria years ago, where people were snatching ballot boxes. I never knew that still happened, but I saw that live yesterday, that some people walked in and they snapped ballot boxes or destroyed the votes that have been casted by people. I don't think this is fair. People have come out to exercise their civic duty, and only for some people, for whatever reasons, and to come and say, well, we're not happy with this structure or with this system and we want to destroy or rock the boat, we shouldn't allow this to happen. And this is where our security agencies would have to come in and address this situation. I know a lot of people have said that it should be the INEC. I don't think this is INEC responsibility. INEC cannot on one week conduct the election and be the same person who is going to be monitoring the security or the safety of life and properties at the at the voting places. That should be the responsibility of our security architecture. And come to think of it, here is a country we have over, I think, 300,000 policemen. And I think, if I'm right, over 200,000 people in the armed forces in Nigeria. I mean, far below the international, what you can call the recommendation number. But that is what we have. But, I mean, are we saying that the 300,000 personnel we have in the police and over 200,000 in the army cannot actually provide the safety that we require for our elections that is held only on one day? I think this needs to be looked into by the authority. It is very, very vital, because this is one day, and this is an event that you want people to come out and exercise their vote without fear. But where they are having the fear of being not being persecuted, maybe persecuted is on one hand, and then on the other hand is that, are we sure that if I attend, I'm going to return home alive? Because there are cases where few people actually lost their lives, I mean, when they went out to vote. And that shouldn't be a thing that we should be talking about in this day and age. People should feel comfortable to come out of the comfort of their homes, to come to the voting centers to cast their vote. And that's on that note, that is where I want to put this. And then lastly, I observed that there have been a lot of monitoring groups from all over the world coming to monitor our elections, and this happens in Africa all the time. In all the opportunities that I've had in Europe to actually address a large forum, there is a suggestion I've put out there, and this is the suggestion, and I want to put it on the national telly here now in my dear country. It is good to have the EU and then the United Nations, all of them coming to monitor our events or our elections rather. But I want to see us as well going over to monitor their elections when they conduct their elections in these countries. I think there is a lot of good things we'll be able to bring back home when we go to monitor. I know that our countries goes to monitor elections in other African countries. I'm not aware of how many elections they have monitored in Europe or in the North America. So I live in Europe, and I would love to see Nigerian electoral monitoring team to come to Ireland and see how elections is conducted there. Without a doubt, I'm sure that by the time such team are returning home, right in the plane, something will be ticking in our heads and say, you know what, I think we can do things a bit differently next time around when we have an election being conducted in our place. So these are the sort of things that I want to put out. I want to commend all the effort that has gone into this election, because I know to organize an election on the part of the agency that conducts it, on the part of the political parties that have to campaign, I mean, for well over how many months now on to this day, and they can't wait to get the result, and on the part of the electorate who have to leave the comfort of their home to go and vote. And I have to actually express my sympathy to those that have lost their life in the process of exercising their civic obligation, which shouldn't be. Again, I say that there's still a long way we could go, but without a doubt, I'm sure we can get there, and we will get there someday. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Rotimi Adebari, former mayor of Port Lions Town Council in Ireland. Thank you very much for joining us.